Bonjour. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Fantastic. Now we have your attention. Welcome to the Marché de Film and Cannes Next. My name is Sten Salover. I am the head of Cannes Next, and I'm very excited and very proud to invite you to the official first opening panel of Cannes Next 2024. Before we go into this really relevant, fascinating, insightful, I maybe even hope a little bit controversial panel, we'll see how the arguments are coming out. I'd like to a little bit give an overview of what's going to happen at Cannes Next within the 7 days, and what are some of the programming highlights which I would recommend you to go and see. Of course, as you can imagine, the main topic of Cannes Next this year is what? Fantastic, thank you. So there will be a lot of here and there and across our 60 sessions. But a couple of highlights indeed. Here on the main stage today, now and a little bit later, we're going to discuss AI from the perspective of skill organizations and I would say the larger industry impact, as well as some of the filmmakers already in Europe who have used artificial intelligence in their feature-length projects. As you might have seen, our exclusive partner for artificial intelligence topic this year is Microsoft. Microsoft has their beach at the Majestic. It's open every day. You go out of the Riviera and walk a little bit at the end of Village International, and on the right side there is the Microsoft Cafe. The program of the Microsoft Cafe is extensive. They have everyday demos where you can try things out yourself. You can learn the art of prompting. There is different types of workshops, how to improve your pitch decks, your financing plans, your scripts, and then etc. Daily, free of charge programming from some of the best experts in the world. Show your badge, go to the Majestic Beach. Even going to the Majestic Beach is a great opportunity. I guess I've only been there a handful of times. Go check it out. It's an amazing program. Plus Friday we will have a whole day on artificial intelligence, well, with, again, some of the speakers here. If you turn right to the side of the pointy arrow, then here at Cannes Next, we've always wanted to have a kind of a touch and feel to innovation and not just talking about innovation. This year, we're proud to present our biggest ever Cannes Next Innovation Studio. This is a 150 square meter, full-blown Hollywood studio-grade virtual production facility. So if you've heard about virtual production, you've never tried it out, you want to learn what it is, how it works, try out the best technology, and etc., there is a full studio where you can try things out. Throughout the whole weekend, we have some extraordinary partners, such as legendary VFX houses, MPC and Lux Machina, doing case studies of the films in the official programs. We will have hands-on workshops on almost any element of future production and virtual production. But we also pay a lot of attention to some important topics, or very important topics that touch us all. We are going into second and a half year in the war in Ukraine, and of course the Marché stands in solidarity with Ukrainian filmmakers. If you remember last year, we presented a collaborative project that brought Banksy's murals to Cannes. This year, on exactly those 3 days, we are paying attention to the ecological disaster that results from the conflict of Ukraine. This is something that we will all experience for decades to come. And Vona, a very special project supported by Enterprise Estonia and some of the filmmakers, is actually making a documentary, an impact documentary about the ecocide in Ukraine. And exactly as we are here, they are arranging a hackathon between filmmakers, scientists, storytellers, and technologists that takes place here in Cannes, in Tallinn, Estonia, and in Kiev. There is an extraordinary exhibition. Please show your solidarity and go see them. until Thursday. It's absolutely breathtaking. And of course, don't forget to join us here on Saturday for our VP Summit and some of the other events as well. So that's about only one fraction of what Next has to offer. Well, I guess now it's time to unveil the box and see what's happening with AI. One of our greatest partners over the years has been the International Screen Institute in Vienna, which is an amazing training program that powers producers, filmmakers, and other creatives in the film industry with relevant skills. And obviously, in order to kind of mitigate or come through this transition, we need skills. And we're happy to present this session with Screen Institute and Sarah Norenberg, who is the chairwoman of the Institute. Well, Sarah, could you tell us what the Institute is about? And I think you have some amazing courses also coming up this summer.
Yes,
and
we
autumn.
do. Oh, sorry. And I'm going back. So, yeah, hi. Very happy to be here. And Stan said, joining up with Connect this year around as well. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about us. So we've been founded in 2020 and have received funding from Creative Europe, among other partners. And this is the third year that we are offering training courses to business professionals. These courses are held in Vienna in Austria, and some of the course elements are also hybrid. We do have follow-ups with the filmmakers, but mostly they're in person. It's a beautiful city. And the first course I'm talking about is Market-Ready Fiction. Some of the alumni are here because Julia and Satash, they have trained the first cohort in April. And this course is about getting market ready. That means being prepared with confidence on how to navigate a film market. This is for early professionals, bringing a project and learning how to package, to pitch, to negotiate, and to ultimately do sales and distribution agreements. And we're here with some of our alumni, as I said. We do have the second edition, which is documentary in September. And then instead of the Marché du Film, we're going to be at ITFA with our participants. Next up, there's the Audience Design Lab, headed by Sheila Cully. So you can apply with your project as a team of 3 or 2, so that's director, writer, and producer. And with your project, we will assign you one audience designer who helps you to come up and implement your own audience engagement strategy customized for your project. So you will get exposed to all kinds of tools of audience design, such as personas, you know, the SWOT, and etc. So much more, and. Yeah, and ultimately helps you to position your project either at a script stage already or right before distribution. Next course is sustainability management. We do have our wonderful 3 course directors, Jamilia, Julia, and Sophia. Jamila is going to focus on the social side, so ethical sourcing and the overlap of the film industry and the intersection of sustainability management particularly. And Julia and Sophia are experts on green sustainability, which is also a very, very big factor we should all be aware of. That's happening in October. And ultimately, business and legal affairs. Our course directors are Maria Christine Rieder and Kai Mai. And this is also the topic that we want to focus on here. This is basically all across the value chain from development, production, until distribution. You will get a very comprehensive understanding of all the legal ins and outs that are important. And we do have a very esteemed speaker panel, among which Charlotte, who's also joining us here, Christos Michaels from Lee & Thomsen and Mark Byrne from Element Pictures. They are both diving deep into the guilds and how to deal with them, what's important, what to do, what not to do, so that we're all better prepped. And we're focusing not just from a European standpoint, which is also manifold. So there is the French angle, the German angle, Danish, etc., from a European level, but also from an Anglo-Saxon and Anglo-American level. So it will cross the pond, basically. Yes, we have wonderful partners. As I said, we've been Creative Europe funded, but also teamed up with various other companies across the board, teaming up with various film festivals where you can find us. We have alumni, more than 100 by now, now starting into the first year, from 27 countries, who we were lucky to train as professionals.
I understand there are some scholarships as well.
Oh, there is, yes. So we still have, for this year's business and legal course, a special offer. So anyone who's here in the room, we scanned your badges so we know who is going to apply is going to receive a 10% discount on this year's course fee.
I have to say that also having a film producer's life and being in the industry for 25 years, this year was the first time when I actually needed to have lawyers and legal affairs on my film. And actually, I needed to have 3 of them. So it's better to have prepared with you as well. But there are also coming up training programs for AI, right? If you can talk about a little bit.
There is, absolutely. So what we do is each year, so it's not just a one-fits-all slate, but we adapt to what the market and also what our participants are giving us as feedback. So every year the course will be slightly different. And since this is the topic and the buzz per se, of course we will have, or we have webinars as well, where we are always implementing an AI element on how it fits the courses, because it's linked to all of them. And now particularly here, being very happy to have a panel.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, let's get then in the AI element. So without further ado, I think I probably have one of the most experienced people on the AI and real-time element. But we'll start with AI. So Caleb and Shelby Ward, about a year ago, straight after Cannes, one day I went to YouTube and I opened up YouTube and I saw a very fantastic clip. And that clip was Wes Anderson's Star Wars. I don't know if anyone has seen it. So how many has seen it? Well, quite a few. I'm sure that the rest of you who haven't seen Wes Anderson's Star Wars, please go and check it out on YouTube. Wes Anderson might be here on Friday, so we'll see how that turns out. In any case, I was quite shocked, and I understood that that clip, well, A, wasn't done by Wes Anderson, which was clear. But number 2, I was quite shocked about the fidelity and the quality and also the wittiness of the clip. And I kind of thought to myself, well, this is it, here we are. And I just wanted to get in touch with the people who made that clip, and well, here they are, Caleb and Shelby Ward, founders of Curious Refuge, one of the world's foremost training programs for people understanding how to use AI creatively. Caleb and Shelby, well, give us a little hands-on what Curious Refuge is, and welcome to Cannes.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
That project was an experiment last year, and it really kickstarted a lot of what we will show you today. So thank you for having us. So how important are AI-empowered skills? Okay, so first we want to say hello. We have to start with a 6-finger wave because this is AI we're talking about. And I really think we're going to be nostalgic for this time. As these tools get better, we're going to see less 6 fingers, right? But I think we'll all remember this time when AI was doing not so great with hands, right? It's just... So we love to greet you with this little wave. So Caleb and I founded the world's first home for AI storytellers called Curious Refuge. We have a ton of things happening at Curious Refuge. We have AI events happening around the world. We have a jobs board where students are taking our workshops and getting hired every single week. We spoke with someone last week who said he's on his 5th round of hiring our students, which is incredible. And so we have a lot happening, film events, we post a weekly web show. But we have students in over 109 countries training with us, which is incredible. So quickly, I want to talk about how our workflow is changing. So the current workflow, right, we have a waterfall effect.
And by the way, you are from a visual effects trainer background, right?
Yeah, so we worked before, moving into AI. Caleb and I ran an online animation and motion design school for many years, and then we worked in VFX, so training artists in traditional pipelines, so Houdini, Nuke, Unreal Engine, and that was until last year when we saw AI take off the way it did. We launched Curious Refuge. So we're supporting artists in this new wave of AI workflows. So what we see though happening is, we have this waterfall effect, right, where pre-production slightly bleeds into production, which moves into post-production and then into marketing and distribution. Well, with the AI workflow, we really see it as more of a holistic workflow, and where pre-production bleeds into every part of the production pipeline. For example, now working with AI, you can, create a spec trailer about your film and do audience testing, which is the marketing distribution, before you've even shot a single frame, which is incredible.
So we want to talk about how important it is to have AI skills. And I think the best way to illustrate that is through showing an actual AI-generated film. So this is a film that was created with no human intervention. Someone just typed in a prompt, and this is the film that resulted. Oh no, there's supposed to be audio. Do we have audio playing?
In my dream, I met Stripes.
Here, we'll start it over, because it was getting to the good part.
As I lay napping in the sunshine, I dreamed of a jungle where I was no longer just a small kitten, but a fierce tiger. In my dream, I met Stripes, a wise old tiger who taught me to embrace my inner strength. I faced challenges, climbed towering trees, and hunted for my own food. When I awoke, I felt bolder, stronger, and ready to take on the world. I may be small, but inside, I carry the heart of a tiger.
Okay, so as you can see...
What's the thing with the tails, though?
Not great. Have a lot of questions. First, what's up with that music? It sounded like terrible royalty-free music. Also, where was Stripes? They talk about Stripes, the second character in the film, and you only see part of his head. Also, why does the cat have two tails? Maybe he merged with Stripes. And then my final question is, who was the woman? She is
Stripes turned into the woman.
Oh, wow, that's deep, actually. So as you can see, it takes a lot of skill to get something out of AI. The best AI projects have underlying people are coming to these projects with underlying storytelling skills, whether it's skills in storytelling, screenwriting, editing, and they're bringing that to the projects that they work on. For example, this film that you're watching right now was created by a team from Brazil for our holiday film competition. It's a really emotionally resonant film, but of course they were using the skills that they had, and they built on those skills to create something very interesting. And when it comes to AI, really what's so important is having the ability to take a look at a lot of different outputs and select the best one for the project that you are working on. Iteration is key whenever you're working on an AI project, and being able to master the prompts and select the best output for your project is essential. And that is best evident from this film that you probably saw. This is the Sora-generated film that was created by the Shy Kids. It basically follows this guy who has a balloon for a head. And whenever it was released, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this was created with Sora. And then when we started reading about some of the technical breakdown, they said that it took 300 shots to generate just one shot for their film. And those shots took 10 to 20 minutes each to create. So you can do the math about how long this took. And then on top of that, they had to use VFX techniques, VFX compositing techniques, and compositing and rotoscoping just to create this film, which still struggles from inconsistencies. But AI is capable of creating some really impressive projects and bringing to life.
I think that's Paul's film, right?
This is Paul Trillo's film. So I was having lunch with Paul last week, and he was talking about how he always had a dream to create this specific film, but obviously the budgets on a music video and just the technical hurdles required to create a project like this is really challenging. And so he always dreamed of having this really long tracking shot and going through these scenes, and he was finally able to pull it off with Sora. But even then, he said it took him about 50 shots to one to be able to use any of these shots in his project. And we want to show you an AI film that was created in collaboration with an artist. So Shelby actually put this film together last fall. And it's funny because I feel like showing you guys a film from last fall is like showing you a film from 2 decades ago in the world of AI. But this was created for the Milli Vanilli story. It's about 2 minutes long. We'll go ahead and play back. Should have audio on this one. Oh no. Oh no. Do you mind playing that back?
Let's see. Maybe if we go back 2 slides.
Yes.
I think it says, what does it say?
Does it say something? Sorry, guys.
We can't read this media file.
Oh, man.
Unfortunate.
Well, it's a great film.
Well, just
Maybe check
imagine
it out.
just the most amazing film you've ever seen.
But it's a documentary. So basically, I want to show you the breakdown for this project to really showcase how the workflow is quite similar to what you've experienced. So basically, this project, Sony reached out to us, and they had just received the Milli Vanilli catalog, and they needed a way to get their global team on the same page about the Milli Vanilli story. So they reached out, and here were the assets we received. We have the story beats to work with and a few image assets. And I had 2 weeks to get this to them. So most of my team was out of office, and so this one really fell into my lap. And so for this project, we began with research, which was a fun challenge, right? Because you're just listening to 1980s pop music and learning about these artists. So
Learning how to fake it and not make it.
exactly. And so I was able to use ChatGPT as an assistant, right? So I went in and said, can you give me a script for the Milli Vanilli story with a 90-second script? And I can take that and ask for the shots. And pretty quickly, I have something to work with. But I want to demonstrate how we don't want to move forward with exactly what these tools give us. Because, for example, if I worked with what Chat gave me, we'd be starting with diving headfirst into the zany world of Milli Vanilli. And we'd have a character diving into water with the logo at the bottom. And so this is the shot that it recommended we start with, which is it's giving a little more belly flop than anything interesting. But we use this as a starting off point, and it helps us to kind of, kickstart the project. So I move forward with my script refinement and really refining the shots and the story for this project. I can then upload my script and ask for a quick character breakdown so I can move into casting and voice generation. And in this case, I used 11 Labs to cast my characters, and I used text-to-speech to, create all of the voices. And with every project, we've seen that we actually start with a radio edit of our story before we begin generating images. And so my favorite part is creating the mood board. So I have the assets from Sony, and then I get to move forward with, what do I want to see? What should this story kind of look like? And so I want to point out something really cool. If anyone's been using Midjourney, you can go into the Explore tab of Midjourney and really start to see what are other people using as their prompts for storytelling. So I was able to search 1980s aesthetic and just kind of look at what other people are prompting. And so I can study those and maybe use that as inspiration for my story. And then comes image generation, which, as we already mentioned, it's 300 to 1. You're pulling so many shots to find anything good. For example, this is leg warmers, according to AI. It's really fun to see the hallucinations that occur when you're working with these tools. For example, every time I look at this scene, something new is happening. I'm not sure how his leg is fusing into his arm, but there we go.
He's wearing shoes on his hand.
That could be the move. And so here we go. For this specific project, we used Insight Face Swap for character consistency. There are other tools you can use. but this worked well for us here. And so I'll let Caleb explain the rest of this project.
Yeah, so in the edit, we like to basically create an animatic first, so kind of a storyboard cut, similar to an animation pipeline, to see what the film will be like. And then we move on to the animation phase, which there's so many tools available to you now. Pika, Runway, Sora, of course, will be one of those. Hyper.
Copilot.
Copilot. Yeah. Google announced a new one today. I mean, just there's like never-ending news when it comes to AI, but so many tools that you can use. And then traditional VFX. So a lot of the shots in this piece, it's available online. You can check it out. Utilized compositing in VFX and After Effects to bring some of the shots together. And then there's titling and finishing, adding in sound effects.
I used SNL as inspiration for these titles. I don't know if that's...
And really just bringing everything together. And what was really cool is we released this film, and actually Jody and Linda Rocco, who were the actual Milli Vanilli, like they're the real singers behind Milli Vanilli, reached out and said that the film really embodied their story and that it was very well done, which was cool to see. And really, this is Midjourney's evolution. So obviously early on, it was in novelty phase, Midjourney 1 and 2, up until we actually are on Midjourney 6 now, and the quality is, of course, photorealistic. I think when it comes to AI video, we're really in the Midjourney phase 2. It's still, there are absolutely professional applications, but we're only scratching the surface of what is going to be possible. And what we like to encourage at Curious Refuge is play. We think that curiosity defeats fear, and we really encourage our students. Like Shelby said, we teach thousands of students around the world on how to use AI in a filmmaking pipeline, and we just encourage them to explore the creative possibilities. And so one fun example is we put together this Barbenheimer trailer last year, and it kind of made the rounds and went viral online. And it was really fun because we were able to put this together in 4 days. And this project would have never been possible before AI, and I definitely highly recommend checking it out. It's pretty funny. So thank you so much for your time. Stay curious, and we appreciate our time. Thank you so much.
Super. Thank you very much. Well, before we move on to Ben, and we a little bit, of course, talk about real time, which is very, very important component of this skill transitioning process, because we're experiencing the shift towards or with AI, but also a big shift with real-time production. Let me ask you quite a tough question. So to which degree you would see these new tools and these new workflows are actually suitable for broadcast or film quality work? I mean, one of the criticisms that always is yes, great tools, but is this really relevant for us?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fantastic question, because most AI tools natively don't output in even 1080p, let alone 4K and some of the larger resolutions that you'd need for larger distribution. So I'd say that AI is best suited for pre-production. That's so obvious, right? Pre-production, post-production for fixing bad
Proof
dialogue.
of concept, selling your ideas, trying things out, and etc.
Absolutely. But by the end of this year, absolutely, there will be AI tools that will be screen ready, and we're already working and seeing that tools like Sora are coming out. And
have you tried it?
They have intentionally not given me access to Sora just yet, but we chat with...
That went on the record and on a live
But we've been chatting with many artists using it, and it's going to be an incredible tool. But there's plenty of alternatives as well. And so absolutely, by the end of the year, we think that establishing shots, details, building your world is going to be definitely possible with artificial intelligence on screen.
Thank you. Ben, well, you have had, I think, twice as more years career in this industry since AI came to us. Originally, motion capture, Vita Digital, one of my all-time favorite companies, been my dream to go there, please. Peter Jackson's legendary films and so forth. But now you work primarily with Dimension Studios, which is an extraordinary virtual production facility. And previously you were with Unreal, which, I think since Mandalorian, has made history since Mandalorian. How are those real-time tools coming into the life of an independent filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, they're really starting to come into independent filmmaking. And actually this week we at Dimension are announcing that we are co-producing and co-financing independent films of our own using real-time technologies. Yeah, this is a few of the films that I've been lucky enough to work on in my last 15 years or so. I started in motion capture, performance capture, virtual production on District 9, and then, like you said, I worked with Weta Digital when they came to Vancouver to shoot Rise of the Planet of the Apes. My journey through those sorts of virtual productions led me to join Epic Games and lead the Unreal Engine film and TV team for Europe, helping filmmakers doing all sorts of interesting technological new ways of making films. So at Dimension, we're a real-time storytelling company. We are now 250 people. We've grown quite considerably over the last few years, and we've got stages in London and in Rome, large LED volume stages, but we also do all sorts of different types of virtual production, predominantly using Unreal Engine and real-time technologies. So this is a sort of a slate of the different parts of virtual production. It's quite hard to sort of put a pin in what virtual production is, but for me it's anywhere where the digital and physical production meet. So that could mean mean AI pre-visualization. It could mean green screen simulcam. It could mean even broadcast green screen virtual sets like you see with sports and weather.
Eurovision last weekend.
Eurovision, yeah, why not? Yeah, that's a virtual production. So it's all of those different things, and these are a few of the different bits of service work that we do. We're creative partners in terms of creative development and visualization and consulting. On the technology side, we have these stages, these large LED volumes like The Mandalorian. We also do motion capture and volumetric capture. And we're using AI tools ourselves in some of our pipeline and rendering processes, which I'll get onto in a little bit. And so we're shooting end-to-end production all the way from the initial pitch to iconic stories. We've done more than 700 shoot days on large LED volumes, and like we say, we're globally across London, LA, Rome, and Mumbai. I'm going to show you a little film that we produced from Cinecittà in Rome. We decided to take 5 days to see what can you shoot on an LED wall. So this is our demonstration of where virtual production is these days. So we don't need the audio for this, thank you. I'll talk over it. Yeah, so essentially we were trying to showcase that LED walls aren't just for sci-fi. You know, Mandalorian is a great example. Some of the other sort of Hollywood productions that we've serviced, like Pinocchio or Masters of the Air, you know, those are perhaps more traditional uses of virtual production. But actually, we wanted to try and see what you could do if you wanted it. This is a sort of a Revenant style. You know, this was with 2 weeks of pre-production, trying to showcase what you can do with indie budgets and LED volumes. Of course, you have to have a car shot. This is this is a traditional way of using the LED screens, if you can even say that. But you can really get classic the equivalent of rear projection techniques, but using a real-time games engine in the background. So what you're seeing, for those who are unfamiliar, there's the LED screen is what you're seeing in the background there. And so here you can actually see it with the crane, and you can see behind the foreground elements, which are all real, the background is all virtual. So in this case, that's a large LED screen. And here we were trying to showcase that you can do emotional pieces, you can even do period pieces, you can do drama. And some of the productions that we're coming to Cannes with this week, where the ones that we're co-producing and co-financing, are exactly that. They're generally UK independent narrative dramatic pieces on a lower budget. I put this one in here just to show volumetric capture for those who might not be familiar with this technology. This is essentially a camera array that you put around in a green screen, and you have we have a system with about 100 cameras, and they stitch 4-dimensional video in order to get, in this instance, crowds. So this, again, my idea here is that it's not just for the high end and for the Hollywood. If you've got cast and extras who are in costume already, then you can pull them through a volumetric capture system, and you can see that these guys are all actually 3-dimensional objects. So these were all captured in this green screen volumetric facility. And it was so successful that actually we were able to put them much closer to camera. The director was really happy to have them, in mid-shot. We were expecting them just to be way back in this large crowd scene, but actually we were doing a whole bunch of close-ups, and they really held their own. That's that same one again, I think. Okay, and so yeah, on to some of the places where we're using AI tools. So in real-time game engines, there's what you're essentially doing is you're trying to render the pixels as fast as you possibly can, which is quite different from traditional offline visual effects techniques. It's a different problem space, if you like. If you think about a video game and what it's trying to do, a video game, you need it to be responsive in less than 40 milliseconds in order to feel that you're actually playing the game. So this is why computer game engines are a very different beast than traditional visual effects tools. Weta, for instance, will spend 20 hours rendering a frame for Avatar, but in order to put something live at computer-generated imagery on an LED wall, you need it to be able to render in sub 40 milliseconds, and you just need it to be as good as possible in less than 40 milliseconds, as opposed to the problem space of traditional visual effects, which is we just want it to be as good as possible. It doesn't matter how long it takes. And so we've done a particular fork of Unreal Engine, a different build of some of our very clever techie guys, using AI for the deep learning super sampling. And my best way of explaining that is imagine that you've got lots of pixels and you're filling in the gaps of the pixels in between them. So you're essentially sampling all of these different pixels around this one particular pixel and using a deep learning method to get a whole bunch of different approximated pixels from the artificial intelligence. So that's a way that we're using AI even in Hollywood productions, and it means that we can get we can get these beautiful lighting scenarios. And I'll show you another film where we're actually getting these gorgeous reflections. So again, this is all real in the foreground. This is something that we shot for a demo very recently, and what you're getting, those ray traced light pools. Up until we believe we're the first people in the world to do this, to be able to showcase the gorgeous way that the light interacts with the glass and getting caustics and reflections. We're able to do this because of this AI NVIDIA technology, the DLSS, the deep learning super sampling. So yeah, it's an exciting time for me. I've been doing virtual production for 15 years, as I say, and on the first few productions that I was on, the kind of technology that we were using, it was millions of dollars worth of technology. You think about Peter Jackson on Lord of the Rings, or not that I was on it, but Spielberg on Tintin, or all of these sorts of films. Now these days, actually, what you can get very similar technology if you have a video gaming spec'd laptop, say, I don't know, 2,000 euros or dollars, or 3,000 maybe, for a nice graphics card. And then together with an iPad, those technologies that you can have in your bedroom as a sort of a bedroom content creator mean that's better technology than Peter Jackson had when he was doing the motion capture for Lord of the Rings. That's better technology that James Cameron had when he was doing the first Avatar. So it's a really, for me, I think it's quite an empowering time. I think that it's a time that we're going to be able to democratize those sorts of high budget storytelling. So that's my hope for AI as well, that it's going to be coming into that picture and really democratizing the sorts of people who can tell these sorts of stories.
So does that mean that directors and producers need to become techies?
I don't think so. I mean, we work with a huge array of different directors, and I think the best way to look at the LED wall production actually is to think of it as a physical build. You know, people who are, you know, visual effects directors who've come to us will actually be more confused about the process sometimes because they're saying, okay, we want to fix it all in post. You know, that's a typical director will say, okay, we're going to do the visual effects after. But actually, it's much more similar to an art department build, where you're saying, okay, well, we have to build on the stage. It's going to take us 7 weeks to make that work. Well, it's exactly the same thing if you're putting a virtual asset onto an LED wall.
So in a way, I guess, with AI tools and then the real-time tools, the big mindset shift then is that you're actually kind of creating as you go, or you're designing as you go in a sense, because usually you would have a script, then you would iterate, then you would have an art department, then you shoot, and then if you have some money, then you'll figure out what the post's going to be somewhere in
the projects,
you know, 2.5 years in the future.
The projects I'm involved in, we definitely want to have a script before we get going.
Sure. Well, let's a little bit then talk about the legal stuff around it. It's all very nice that, you know, you go and prompt Milli Vanilli or all of those beautiful people, but well, we all know that some of those platforms are quite clunky about their identity rights, where the data comes from, and so forth. Charlotte, you are working day-to-day basis on advising producers, but also producers' organizations and festivals on, I guess, on how to use those technologies sound and safely, as well as what the paradigms are. Roughly speaking, we see two different schools now emerging. I guess one in US and one in Europe. What are the kind of traffic lights and warning lights or disclaimers that people should be aware when going out with those tools?
Many thanks, and as you can all see, when we divided the roles on the panels, I got the old school, Charlotte, bring your handwritten manuscript, no AI involved, but I thought as the lawyer, there's no way I can...
You want me to put it into into a Copilot now?
There's no way I can put any kind of lawyer's presentation together that can compete with this. So you'll just look at me and listen to me, and that will all be fine. Steen actually asked me when we prepped, he asked me a question, you know, how is AI shaping your work today? What's the difference? And for me, it's a bit like an unruly child that demands a lot of attention, not always for the right reasons, sometimes very exciting, and sometimes you want to say, can we just step on the brake a little bit? But I think it's super useful for all of us to remind ourselves that we're at a film market, and in here, people are, you know, trying to make their dreams come true, trying to raise money to develop and to produce and get distributed and so on. That's already a massive challenge, creatively, commercially, legally, and you can add AI to that equation. That doesn't change much. So I think for me, it's all about how we can make it into a good tool, how we can find a way to enhance processes and nourish creativity. So I'll try and do a little bit of myth busting and fear busting, and just maybe give some practical insights into things to keep in mind when you're working with it. And this is the lawyer talking tech, so disclaimer. But generally speaking, I like to look at two different types of AI. The traditional, the kind of pattern recognition, problem solving, decision making, predefined rules, permit efficiencies, go through my script, find all the women with red pants, etc., or things like that.
Curate me films on a platform.
For example, search algorithm. And then what we call generative AI, which is pattern creation and creating new content based on prompts. And you can all go and take the prompt course. I might do that as well. It might help me with my text for the next presentation. But the two types of technology are not necessarily mutually exclusive. They can support each other. And many of these tools, especially the traditional ones, are already being used. And I think you've described that so eloquently, I won't even go there. I also think as an industry, we're quite good at working with disruptive technology, both in production and also in distribution. So for me, it's really about enabling and empowering. And I don't think they replace the current creative processes. I think what you guys have shown us is things that I can do that I could only dream of in the past. And maybe, yes, the cat has got two tails and we can fix that maybe in post. But I'm very excited about the possibilities. You've talked about pre-production, production, post, marketing, and distribution. If anybody's interested in more examples, come and see me, because I've got quite extensive notes also on what we can do. But for me as a lawyer, I kind of, apart from the traditional and the generative AI, I look at AI used in the creative process and AI looked at from a kind of data training or catalog training perspective. And so if you're looking at using AI in your creative or production process, whether it's a new work or you want to work on your catalog, aging, de-aging, voice work, dubbing, syncing, stunts, integration of live action, etc. You go and see the people over here because they're expert, not me. But it's really about consent and consultation. Don't forget to speak to the people that you worked with at the time you created the content, or the people you're working with now as you go forward with your project. It's really important. Depending on the jurisdiction you're in, there can be quite a strong protection of what we call moral rights. For example, here in Europe, that means that you can't just go out and change existing content without the permission of the creators that were performers that were involved. The right to own image, personality right, it's not even copyright, it's just a different field of law that we have to take into.
So we're not necessarily knowing that beautiful person who will come out of the prompt, who that person actually is. But you can train your own models to provide what you need.
But also be aware that, of course, some performers are in a position to actually license their image directly against payment or, individual contract terms. So also, if you're working with that kind of performer, creator, keep in mind that they may be promising you things that maybe conflict with other arrangements they've made. So quite a bit of homework to be done. And the other basket is all of this conversation about training on existing content. And it's typically AI developers training on other people's content. And that's, of course, something that's a huge preoccupation for me in my daily life, advising not just producers, as you say, Sten, but the entire creative and business community. But it doesn't mean that you should not think about, would it be interesting for me if I am the possessor of an interesting catalog to do training on my own catalog? You should keep in mind that if you're using outside vendors, for example, if you're using your services and you're sending your content to your vendor, have the right provisions in your contract about the data security, the business confidentiality, who owns the output. Quite important. I think there are a couple of people in the beginning of this kind of activity that got a nasty surprise. Really good record keeping. What would we like to get done? What have you done on the basis of what came out of it? Document also the role of humans in the creative process.
Because that's going to guarantee you the copyright.
Well, you may have fantasies about later on being able to have copyright protection of your output, but if it's entirely AI generated for the moment, you won't get copyright protection. We are
as
still...
As the US Supreme Court said.
We are still requiring in the international legal system that there's a human component, but it doesn't mean you can't have AI-assisted creativity being copyrightable. So that's why it's really a good idea to record what you've done. So I'm a script writer and I'm using AI to organize, various forms of information in my work. I keep a record of where I'm using it to which extent, and I put that in together with my application for registration. So fantasies about replicating famous people's voices, that is an infringement if you don't have their consent. This right of personality also includes people's voice, maybe also part of their personal data. And unlike the copyright system where we have exceptions and you can say, I'm doing a parody or satire or whatever, there are no exceptions to personality rights. So you're in deep doo-doo if you don't clear it beforehand. So from my perspective, I think actually I'm going to give you my good advice rather than talk about the legislative perspectives, because I think it's more relevant to the audience here. My recommendations is inform yourself of the legal rules, seek advice, and you're going to say, Sten, yes, the lawyer would say that, but you don't have to ask me. There are lots of other lawyers out there who know as much, if not more, about it. But really, you'll often in our world be operating in different jurisdictions, and we have different rules. Sten alluded to, you'll be familiar with the fact that in the US, we work with work for hire. We don't do that in Europe. We work with copyright, droit d'auteur, author's rights. So already between the two world regions, never mind going to Asia. So do your research, seek advice, communicate, collaborate with your creative and business partners. There's quite a high degree of contractual freedom in this space, but you really need to talk to each other beforehand and decide and record what you have agreed. Don't ignore the rules and think you can just ask for forgiveness afterwards. I know that's the approach of many players in this field, but I don't recommend it. Record, document, agree. It's your insurance policy going forward. And last but not least, remember that IP, copyright, personality rights, and so on, that's our currency. That's what people are buying and selling next door. And so my personal advice, do your homework, respect the rules. You'll get much further that way, and it'll be a collaborative effort. People will be happy and proud that you asked them. And if they say no, it's better to know now than later on when the film is finished and they get an injunction and stop you from releasing it. So just proceed on that basis. I think you're going to ask maybe also, what do we think about the future? Do I have 2 seconds to say what I think about the future? Of course you have 2 seconds
to say about the future.
I think it's about master or slave. We want to master the technology like other technological developments in our sector, and we can do amazing things with it. Become a slave, it's not so attractive to me. So I'm looking for a good balance, and I'm looking to see all the exciting things that you've shown flourish and help democratize filmmaking and become available not just to the big players, but to the small players. But I'm not so keen on the algorithm predictability. I'm very passionate about filmmaking myself. I'm a avid film watcher, but I'm always saying, please, please, please give me what I didn't know I wanted. Please don't give me what you think I want based on what I've watched before. So just go crazy with the technology, but do your homework and get the insurance policy.
So we'll run a little check on this next year on the same panel. Thank you. So we have a few minutes. Questions from the hall to our great speakers, gentlemen in the front row.
Yeah, I had a question. I think it's for you and for you on the legal perspective. In the example you gave about this film you made based on these 2 characters, were Willy and Millie, was it the?
Milli Vanilli.
Yeah. Milli Vanilla, or yeah. So I'll call them Milli Vanilla for the simplicity of this. So you said that you trained the AI on older pictures of them, and obviously to be able to recreate the sort of mood or let's call it the artistic direction that was originally used. You said that when you do something like that and you train an AI on existing content, you have to make sure that everybody who was involved is consulted, and whether they would agree that you do that. In a case like this, you obviously you reached out to the two individuals, but if you expand a little bit the work that was done originally, there was probably a creative director there that worked on the clothes, on the artistic look of these two individuals, the two individuals themselves. There was probably a photographer involved who owned picture rights for the pictures he made, the rights of the image. So there were a lot of creative people involved in creating these, the mood of these two characters.
Shelby.
So you said you had to consult all of them, but are all of them protected by some sort of rights, or is just
Depends on case by case and country by country, but I think it's much more exciting to hear how you did it.
Yeah, in this case, we were commissioned by the Sony team, and so we were given assets that they had available to them. So they have the copyright to those assets and hand them to us. And then unfortunately, one of the band members is no longer alive, so we can't, get consent from them. But in working with that catalog, the Sony team is, creating. They had the documentary, the entire catalog of Milli Vanilli, and so they had the rights to commission us. And really, what we've noticed at our company is we are taking risk, in these situations, and a lot of these contracts are built with kind of us taking more risk as the creators. And so it's kind of, more falling on us if something, if someone reaches out and doesn't like something we've created. So I think.
Yeah, so there's been quite a few helpful talks this year at South by Southwest, especially around the asset ownership and AI. So go and check them out. I think they're available in the internet sphere as well. We can take one more question. Well, there's a few more questions. Okay, yes or no?
Recording data on blockchain is universally usable for copywriting or not?
Sorry, I cannot hear you.
Recording data on blockchain in these cases, is that universal?
As a legal basis, recording data on blockchain.
Who recorded the data?
I mean, if, for example, I produce a soundtrack and I create an audio NFT and recording on blockchain has all the data as.
But you own the rights. And all the underlying rights, etc., etc.
Can be used in a legal matter as one more proof of the ownership, in case there is a debate about it.
I think it's time for a private consultation.
Yeah, no, I think the reason I'm hesitating is that it's so difficult for me to tell from just a general example like that what the underlying contracts say about what you can imagine a contract that, even the contracts that you have, Sony or Sony's predecessor in the Milli Vanilli case, back in the 1980s, did not foresee this kind of work, if you like, on their performance. So I really hesitate to give you just a yes or no. But we can continue to discuss afterwards. Yeah.
Very shortly.
This was amazing. Oh, thank you. This was an amazing lecture. You guys did a great job. It was very fascinating. My question is for you, actually. In your opening remarks, you mentioned there was a virtual production demo set up. I guess two-part question is, A, where is it? And B, it will be open all week.
Yes, it's open all week. It's in the Pantiera right side next to the France Television stage. Last question in the front.
Thank you. Again, great panel. I'm curious about it's a legal question and it has to do with the rights issue and ownership. That's both from the perspective of if it's an AI-generated image, you don't have the rights to it. It's not yours. However, I'm looking at something like, for example, as well as being a producer, being an actor, I know that the Screen Actors Guild doesn't give me the right to kind of have my sense of ownership, even if I'm making my own film, because I have to pay them to ensure that I'm treated properly and paid properly in that regard. I'm wondering, where's this? There's a very gray line here in terms of ownership, in terms of, do I own my own likeness, for example? And can I lean into talent?
And which territory are you in?
Well, that's the American territory, but it's also complicated in Europe, of course, because you've got the rights, the moral rights. So it's who owns anyone's
I think that's the best question. Do I have my own likeness in AI? I'll come and answer that in 2025.
And we have to answer that also territory by territory, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's never a straightforward legal answer.
Fantastic.
I think Mark Zuckerberg owns that. That was in the fine print. If you might have forgot.
And you can never ever delete it. Remember that as well. Yeah.
Well, before we close, Sarah, you have an important
yes.
announcement.
So all the questions we couldn't answer now, all of us are around, and tomorrow, Eva and Esther, also from the Screen Institute, our course directors, Julia Shorts, Atash Mathura, and Maria Christine Rieder are here, and we would like to invite you for drinks upstairs, and then we continue the conversation.
Thank you very much, and see you soon.